entire governing team for putting up a conference. It's always very difficult to put up a conference and get thought leaders in one room. Truly appreciate the efforts by the entire governing team here, right? A lot has been spoken on cyber, right? Threats. So thanks to my esteemed panel, right? We had one or two discussions yesterday, today morning. Our intention over the next 30 minutes would be, how can we make it more productive, right? We have a couple of questions which we'll talk about, because we have got a panel where we have got partners, we have got people from BFSI, so because a lot of data would be spoken about, threats would be spoken about, but the intention is that how can we maximize and utilize each one of the room's time out here, right? So before we do that, probably set the context, right? And probably I request, starting with me, about 30 seconds of introduction, followed by how do we move forward from here. Hi, I'm Apoorba Kumar, partner with GT, been in GT for close to 5 years now. I lead the managed services portfolio within GT across cyber for the last 17 years. I'm a specialist in dark web and SOC monitoring, which essentially means that I work with larger BFSI and threat management companies in identifying the steps which can be done to mitigate and reduce risks. That's my day in, day out job. I also work with a lot of government agencies and startups to enhance the security postures, because one of the key results what people are talking about is that how can you become more resilient? That's the key. That's quickly for my side. Request each of my panelists to quickly introduce.
Hi, I'm Animesh. I'm the CISO for TransUnion CIBIL. I've joined TransUnion CIBIL about 9 months back, and prior to that, I worked with other organizations in capacity of information security lead or CISO with HSBC and Deutsche. And here, I'm privileged to be part of this discussion, and we'll share some, we'll talk about some of the items about how the cyber landscape is changing, and we'll respond to those questions. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Chetan Mahapatra. I work with HDFC Securities as the IT audit head. I have had 23 years of experience, predominantly around auditing. I worked with 2 regulators of India, I mean SEBI and RBI. And I look forward to this particular session, hoping to learn a lot and maybe give away something. And that's how it is. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mayurapriyan D. I head the sales for Banyan Cloud for India and SAARC. So Banyan Cloud as a solution, I will go to talk the discussion like what is cloud adoption and how we are securing the cloud environment. That's going to be my discussion today in this panel.
Fantastic. So let's deep dive, right? So the first question which you definitely want to talk about is technology conversion risk, right? A lot of people now talk about, okay, what can be done to increase the security postures? Am I having the right tools? Do I have the dashboarding right? But let's accept from a CISO side, what are the key concerns, right? Multiple platforms or technologies needs to be embedded on a lightning speed, which essentially means that compliance risk, vendor risks, right? And not to mention the cyber attacks point of view. So my first point would be to, for example, we can start with Chetan, right? Because you come from regulatory framework, right? And you also were part of creating a lot of policies, right? Business must be coming to do it now. But there are larger convergent risks of technology. How do you deal that?
So that's a great question. To be very frank, we are all aware that the landscape in general is evolving as we progress. The way the businesses are functioning, they are heavily dependent on IT infrastructures, and clearly, while they are in a siloed manner functioning, they all integrate in a manner so that the entire business could function end to end. So to be very frank, the risks that I essentially see in this particular platform is that there is no unified visibility. For example, if it's cloud, the services are hosted in cloud. The logs and the visibility of the cloud is specific to the cloud team. Similarly, the development, while it gets done in maybe a GitHub or any GitLab or any other process that's being followed from a DevOps perspective, the people associated would essentially try and work around the SDLC process. There would be another team which would be managing the servers, the infrastructure per se, which would be on-premise, and the network devices. All of these, while they work together, are disjointed. That is a very big risk that I essentially see. And there are ways and means to work in tandem, but that is not happening, which is the core essence that one needs to improve upon. Maybe having a unified threat monitoring system in the form of a unified SOC or a SIM. That would be one of the cases that I would want to flag on. Maybe, So that is one of the aspects that I wanted to highlight.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Animesh, some thoughts from your side?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So what I see, technology convergence is in all the areas, in all the industry. Like, as an example, I will start, like, gas pipes are nowadays very famous, so I'll start with that. Like, we had, not in part of our country, but other part of the world, where we had an incident where one of the organization was impacted in US, where about 6 days, the petroleum prices have shoot up because there was a ransomware attack. And that's where it's all the areas of the industry, this technology convergence is happening, and that's where the cyber threats are evolving. So from our industry, what I can talk about is we as an organization, you can call out, is maintain a repository of all the financial transactions, and which helps in the financial inclusion program of the government of India. So so what makes us as a high value asset for any threat actor, and they would be very much interested in us. So that's where we have to ensure that we have a higher set of controls, what are there in place. What is technology changing? That is something which is not in our control, and that will keep on evolving. And what we can change is we have to uplift our controls. We have to align to the technology, and our IT team and our developers are not our adversaries. So, and that's what we have to see, that how we are able to enable our technology teams or the business teams to adopt those technologies, however, maintaining the balance of the controls. So the controls point of view, where if I say 3 or 4 major controls which I would like to call out, example, the zero trust architecture, the micro-segmentation plays a very key role over here. The third-party security, how your connections are being connected to various third parties, what are other controls you have in place, that's also very important. And the data security elements around the encryption and the identity and access management controls, all that plays a very important part. And the other part which is there now is very important is when you are impacted, so how you are going to respond and recover from those scenarios. So that is where also very important, that should be part of your planning, so that you know what actions are really required. Thank you.
Excellent points, right? So we spoke about convergence, right? And one of the key points also is that a lot has been spoken about, right? And probably does a buzzword, right? Shadow AI and uncontrolled adoption, right? A lot of CIOs, CISOs who are sitting out there, board members, right? A lot of questions come in, right? If you're not doing AI, then what you're doing, right? A lot of NBFCs, financial institutions, large manufacturing companies are facing a question: how can I automate? How can I automate fast? But does anybody is actually seeing the true dangers what AI is happening? Or are you also questioning that if you're trying to implement AI without thinking the kind of ramifications which could have? I could, probably for 30 seconds, I can talk about the biggest nightmare now in board is not about how can I implement AI, but what can I safeguard and what are the processes I need to put. That is the biggest talk which is happening across board now, right? So Mayuresh, I would like to hear from you, right? A lot has been spoken about, right? Every OEM is now talking about they are AI enabled, right? But what do you see actual use case, or what's the process on ground? Love to hear from you. You want to take that first?
Yeah, I'll do that. So if I were to say about usage of AI, most of us are already conversant of a pilot being used in our environment, right? Most of us use it effectively to write mails or, probably go ahead, draft a report or maybe work on Excel, PPT, whatever that we want to do with. And considering that the Microsoft Copilot comes embedded with the 365 that we have, O365 suite that we have, becomes much easier to tap onto it. Now, the challenges associated are really dangerous, if I were to use a very harsh word, but most of the people that are using this particular channel are not aware of the repercussions of pushing in some kind of files or documents into this particular, application to derive the benefits out of it. And what essentially happens is it leads to data leakage, leads to, at times, we have been conversing on this quite a bit. We have come across IPs being pushed out on this platform to go ahead and maybe work on an Excel sheet which captured the formula or the recipe of a product. Or it could be, a report, an audit report which captured very crucial aspects, which was to be formatted, was pushed into this, and in the process was, sent out of the organizations. Now, clearly, DLPs, the conventional DLPs, the way they work would be on an email network or an endpoint. AI is something which is happening now. So clearly, the DLP processes need to embed AI and have ways and means to go ahead and stop these or maybe go ahead and monitor these and accordingly restrict these kind of, sending out documents, if I were to put it that way. So that is one aspect which I wanted to speak about.
Lovely thoughts.
Over to you, Manish.
So I want to touch upon the cloud security. What is cloud security about? Because most of the organizations or enterprise are moving their workloads and their applications on the cloud environment. So cloud security is nothing but a set of policies, controls, regulations framed to secure the cloud. And why cloud security is more important is first is ubiquitous of the cloud adoptions. So all the enterprise customers move towards cloud so that they will have a centralized repository to have their entire modern IT infrastructure. Second one is on the shared responsibilities. So we deal with AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and Oracle Cloud. So these cloud service providers, there is a shared responsibility between the cloud service providers and the users. That shared responsibility, that is the infrastructure which they are providing is being taken care by the cloud service providers, but the users are responsible for the workloads and applications are stored there. And the third important thing is on the breaches. As far as cloud is concerned, the breaches, more than external, the internal breaches are important, like the misconfigurations, the weak APIs, and also on the privileges access given to it. So these leads to a breach. And the impact of the breaches is it leads to lots of financial losses and also on the regulation penalties. So these are the important.
So can you connect this with AI? I think what do you see are changes from a cloud security side? If you can, I think if we connect, it will be fantastic for us.
See, as AI is a friend which helps the cloud security, it's on the configurations part of it. When there's a configuration, then the AI will monitor the configuration pattern of individual, the user who's using the cloud, and then it also on the vulnerability management. If there is a vulnerability raises in the configuration, the AI will able to understand that and also prioritize the vulnerabilities accordingly.
Fantastic. Any thoughts? Absolutely.
So what I see here, the AI, if I break it into three pieces over here, one is where AI from the adversary's perspective, and that's what we have. And so now, because of this AI, a lot of activities and which can be carried out very easily, like the penetration testing and exercises and all, and those freely available tools. And it's not very sophisticated and great technical skills are required. So what we have to see is that breaks the controls boundary for us very easily. So we have to see that we have uplifted our controls accordingly, and also what it means is since it is so easily available, like, so it should not, like, the awareness should be there that it should be responsibly used by by people, because unresponsible usage can lead to legal implications as well. Considering there is a lot of young generation and hearing these buzzwords and all, they will be interested to try, okay, let me see how can I easily get into a network and all. So that's where I think that kind of awareness is very important. Second piece is AI adoption within the business and various technology domains within the organization. That's what we have to see that is being adopted responsibly. We have an AI governance policy in place where cybersecurity and information security requirements are embedded, and so that it is we help the business to adopt it, because you can't shy away from this. This is the need of the hour. Everybody is using it, and we have to see that how best we are able to adopt it as per the advantage of the business. Thirdly is adoption of AI for the various information security and processes, where we talk about their use cases, which Chetan has touched upon, and also I'll touch upon, where is the automation within the Security Operations Center and various other processes what we do. So I think we have to see that we adopt it, and so before we are aware of the risks which are involved and are able to mitigate it.
Fantastic. I think staying with this, right, and all of us have seen that, which is impacting not even corporates, right, deep fake and identity manipulation, right? It's very funny and it's so surprising, right? And I love what Evelyn said in the opening note, right? Especially when he spoke about it is not only about security, but how deep fake and identity crisis is the next wave of cyber attacks, what we're seeing. And when you talk to especially startups and NBFC, right, there is a huge buzz which is going in, right? We talk about double-level security, MFA-level driven passwords, but then there's so much rush to integrate everything our personal side on the AI. So the questions what we ask is that, look, if you're doing 5 steps of foundation on security, what's the rush on integrating your personal side? Because right now, if you see a clear trend on dark web, people are not going after companies, right? People are going after individuals who are having sophisticated designations on LinkedIn. If they say they're doing 1, 2, 3 on LinkedIn, those are the people who are highest under attack. So there's a very clear path of what you're trying to say and what the kind of steps you're doing. So social engineering to a next or third level, and not only that, your immediate family members also are targeted through a very clear process. So my thoughts to you, because you both lead BFSI, which is the segment, right, from an attack vector point of view. And a lot of regulatory norms also come in, right, more from the losses side. So your thoughts here.
So I completely understand the problem at hand, and most of us are actually privy to the fact that we have seen so many videos where, maybe stars, film stars, cricketers, or, people who, when with the advent of AI, would look like a cartoon character, have gradually evolved and look exactly the same like the person that they are getting mimicked for. So with that being said, reality and something which is a fraudulent activity which is being conducted, that thin line is clearly missing now. It is near about the same. Considering that everywhere, in the BFSI sector, if I were to say, the KYC is one of the critical aspects basis which customer gets onboarded. Now, with that being said, so the entire organization relies on it in a way, because that is how the business works. Revenues get generated from a customer. So considering that, how do you go about thwarting away these kind of risks in terms of deepfakes? So we know that deepfake has picked up voice, videos. So what is it that exactly someone can do to thwart away such risks? Now There are ways and means which have been talked about. There's one which is around having a behavioral biometrics, if I have to put it. There are tools which essentially evaluate a person's behavior in terms of how he conducts himself while moving his mouse, his keystrokes, the speed of keystrokes that he carries out on his keyboard, or maybe what timings he logs on into that particular application. So there are various aspects that gets monitored now. So this is one aspect which clearly goes ahead and helps curb or thwart away that risk, but it comes along with certain baggages, if I were to put it. Clearly, there is a lot of information that needs to go away in terms of a breach of data privacy, if I were to put it. So yes, that's a balancing act that needs to be done for that. That is one aspect. There's one more where we always talk about authentication and authorization, which is how you identify the individual per se. And in order to identify an individual, considering that that also gets compromised, this process. So earlier days, what used to happen, or until now, is what we used to practice is one-time authenticated, entered into the system, and conduct yourself, authenticated, authorized, and conduct yourself. So the concept of continuous authentication or authorization is what needs to be played. With regards to this particular aspect of behavioral analytics, you would be able to identify that, okay, if, say for example, I am someone who logs in Mumbai into that application, and suddenly in a few minutes, you get to understand that I am probably conducting my transactions in some other country. That would be what the system will take a cue from and go ahead and maybe kill the session. So these are kind of continuous authentication mechanisms. We have talked about adaptive authentications. So there are multiple of these facets that one can look at. Then there is risk-based analysis as well. Basically, like we just talked about some time back, if it's maybe the MD or the CEO, his credentials getting compromised vis-a-vis someone who is much junior would have a lesser risk, if I were to put it that way. But nevertheless, again, associating the method in which he or she conducts himself is how you would go ahead and associate. So that is another aspect one needs to look at. So these are three aspects one could actually go ahead and look at. And
lovely, very. Animesh, if you want to add something.
Yeah.
So controls point, I see Chetan has already covered. So maybe I will just add 2 cents here. So one is like right now we have a situation where people have, we are talking about that whom to trust. And we are leading to a situation where there will be a trust deficit, where we will stop trusting anything which is coming and over the social communication channels and all. In fact, maybe soon if your wife is calling you, and then you will say, I will not pick up because I don't know, this is my wife or somebody else calling, right? So, and that is the truth, right? Like a lot of scams have happened where you get a video call, and then you accept that call, and then you fall to a victim to it, right? So that's where I think, controls point of view from the organization perspective, Chetan has already mentioned a lot of controls which needs to be there. And one more is very important is awareness, actually. So that's where we can, there could be controls, enough number of controls which can be put into, but very fundamental control is the awareness, right? So where the user awareness plays a very important part to fill up the gap on that trust deficit. So I think we have to work on that awareness part of it, and very strongly considering the very sophisticated tools which are there available in the market, which can make fake videos, make fake calls, and so again, so I think that plays a very important role. Thank you.
Lovely. Mayur, on the same question, right, I would love to hear, right, I think identity manipulation would be the key, right? And there are, as rightly mentioned, sophisticated tools available to manipulate your identity, right? But a larger challenge in front of you is that, from an OEM standpoint, right, is that how to counter? What would be your response?
Okay, on the identity part is like, So it's most of the identities are getting compromised when they are overprivileged. In an organization, the users are being given overprivilege on the identities, and these are not being monitored. I would say that on the overall privilege given to an individual, only less than 10% have been used, remaining it's not been unused. And those unused privileges are being compromised. The attackers focus on those privileges and enter it. So they should have a mechanism like entitlement management tool which will help them to manage and monitor. And also to the users, there is a new function called just-in-time action where we can able to give a privileges, a selected privileges for a particular time, and it can revoke it automatically, and it has to be monitored. So that's where we can able to bring an structure towards the identity management. Yeah.
So actually, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, I had a question to this, and I want obviously one of the audience people also to answer this, right? A lot of debate is going in, right? Especially for very senior CIOs, CISOs, right? They always say that you have an identity, and on dark web you already have one more identity, which means that your assets are already there, compromised, right? So we talk so much, right? Protection, detection, right? But there's already a carbon or a duplicate already available there, exactly you're there, right? So is it actually possible to stop it? My question, probably one audience also can answer this, and probably esteemed panelist. Anybody from the audience would want to take this, and probably your thoughts?
So,
Yeah.
So my thoughts on that, we were just talking some time back about, ethical and non-ethical hacking, right? To be very frank, in this particular case, it's a race between two AI sets. If I were to put it, one which is ethical, another which is non-ethical. So basically the actor behind that AI is a human, and which is where, again, I would want to bring that parallel of ethical and non-ethical hacking. So from that standpoint, we already have been talking about, rogue sites being put up, and they, various organizations provide this service whereby they would scrounge the web, identify rogue sites, go ahead and put them down, and maybe go ahead and do a dark web scan, identify which all data is available, accordingly take necessary mitigation, remediation action. So that is what I believe is the solution to it. But then, like I said, one AI needs to defeat the other, and the intent is what we're looking at, and the actor behind. It is the critical answer that needs to be there.
True that, right? So taking the next question ahead, right? A larger question which always comes in front of everyone, right? How much is how much? Which essentially means that are you overprotected or you're underprotected, right? A lot of topic which already was spoken, right? Eventually you would be breached, or there will be a day you will be breached, right? But the question is that how much would be overprotected or underprotected, right? That's a larger, I think, debate each one of you of senior CIOs, CISOs will be facing, right? Am I taking too much of budget? Am I taking less budget? Because that's a nightmare, right? Every person goes through, and probably you're accountable to the board. So, and between this, there is a very thin line that what are your core processes, technology, assets which needs to be integrated, or what does not need, right? So my thoughts would be that what do you think is the clear line?
Yeah, so for over here, like, we have to understand our data access boundaries and the network access boundaries. So that is where it is very important, where all our critical data sits, and where all our critical data is being shared with and how it is being shared. I think that is very important, and our focus should be to protect that data. I understand, like over protecting, and definitely we cannot protect all the data which is there, and all the data, if requires to be encrypted everywhere, that and requires an enormous amount of spending as well, and we are not going to get that spending. So that's where we need to know that. We need to know our crown jewels which are there in parts of the organization. We need to know how the network control boundaries are, if we have the right segmentation in place for all that critical data sets and the applications, how the various third parties are being connected, and do we have the right controls being set up, and wherever the data is being shared with the third parties, which maybe from the criticality point of view is very sensitive in nature. How they are set up the controls in their environment, and so that the most weakest link, like if I see here, is like we spend a lot of spending, do a lot of spending and uplift of the controls within our environment. But third party is sometimes a very weak link, and that's where it's also important that we get a view out of it, and we have and ensure the right controls are there for our data in their environment. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a response and recovery is very important. And if something goes wrong, then how fast you are able to respond to those incidents, and how fast you are able to recover from those incidents. That's very important, and that should be part of the planning.
Fantastic. Your thoughts?
The way I see it is the most important cog is us, humans, and awareness is key. So with the way things are evolving now, one needs to be made aware. Regular sessions, training sessions, or seminars such as these, or maybe basically building that kind of knowledge around this entire platform is essential. And like he's already mentioned about a lot of things, there's one more concept which we always talk about, the zero trust network architecture, which is essentially a way to thwart away anybody who you do not trust, and you keep on checking the guys which you trust or want to allow into your network. So these are two things that I wanted to basically focus upon.
Mayur, your thoughts, I probably won't request you to just add the cloud angle to this, right?
Yeah.
Because see, in the phase of underprotection and overprotection, it also comes a larger battle, right, of having multiple cloud tenancy, the security part, and probably if you can probably add, it'll be lovely to hear.
Yeah, from the cloud perspective, on the cost it is on the, for example, let me take a developer. They will enable a services, but it is not used for months together. That will be accumulating the cost in the cloud, but it is unused. So there are a comprehensive solution which monitors the services or the infrastructure which is enabled, but which is not used. So those solutions will showcase that how much unused services are there, and because of it, what is the financial impact the organization has undergone. And this will help us to even, it helps to optimize the infrastructure also, where we can able to optimize those compute or a network engine so that we can able to save the cost on it. So there are comprehensive solutions which helps to do it. Like FinOps is one of the solutions which helps them to monitor it and also to optimize it, and also helps to forecast their cloud budget in an organization.
Fantastic. We move to the last question of this panel, right? And one of the key parts, right? A lot has been spoken about TPRM, third-party risks, right? The vendor risks, and what are the policies, right? RBI, SEBI consciously has called out every single time that your ecosystem also needs to be protected equally high. And a lot of frauds have happened in the last 15 days, especially in the banking side, on the vendor side, right? What we have seen as Grant Thornton is that although a lot of work has been happening, but when it comes from a TPRM side, sometimes budgets consciously don't go out from the CISO CIO side because they say, okay, that's not part of my critical monitoring segment, right? Although a lot of changes has been coming in as part of the regulatory monitoring or a lot of workshops, they have been continuously emphasizing this as way forward. I definitely want to hear from both of you, right? Your thoughts, it'll be very important to know.
So maybe I'll go first. So,
yeah.
So from the supply chain security perspective, if I break into the various vendor types. So one is your where you share the data, and the data resides within the vendor organization, and that's what definitely is your concern. Second is where you get a product from a vendor, where that product may be a software, a piece of software. You get it, you install it in your environment, and then and you have limited visibility, like what is really written into the piece of the software. And there had been a lot of incidents which has happened, and if you see that the reason has been either of the two. where the third party got compromised, it was connected to you, your data got lost, or that third party got compromised and the adversary was literally was able to move inside your network because you do not have a control network access boundary. Or the software was compromised and which was used in your environment and you had a limited visibility because what you generally get is maybe a PT report or a VA report, but and that is also maybe once in a year. I think that's where it needs to be strengthened. The framework needs to be strengthened. There is already a lot of guidelines which are there from the various regulators, and we as in this group has to ensure that we are on the top of it, and so that we are getting the specific details on what are the secure coding practices which is followed by that particular third party. And are there, like example, the static code scanning and other things which are being done before that piece of code is being shared with you because you don't have access to the code that is protected. What you can do is just VA scan when the code is deployed on the server. So all that needs to be, I think, there needs to be a well-defined program in place for such third-party security risks, and that needs to be taken care accordingly, what I see.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Adding further, so we in the regulations per se, we have heard about software bill of materials, which is a key component which would give us visibility as to what kind of vulnerable, non-vulnerable components are being used, which gives a better visibility in terms of acceptability at our end. We should look at contractual clauses to be embedded into various contracts that we have with vendors or third parties in terms of conducting audits, the right to audit which could be invoked anytime. So basically, coming back to the regulator standpoint, we also used to look at one aspect where regulators should also be allowed to go ahead and do a right to audit. To be very frank, MeitY, as far as my knowledge goes, also goes ahead and conducts deep dive audits of data centers for that matter, to identify how they're doing. Because clearly a lot of data centers are where our national financial infrastructure resides in the form of various organizations. So this being said, there are other aspects like maybe software integrity checks to be availed from third parties, or maybe have an escrow arrangement where you could fall back on. You could talk about immutable backups, air-gapped solutions, whereby if there is a ransomware attack, you're safe, you can come back, utilize that backup. So these are certain aspects which clearly I think, as we progress, so with the adversities, we learn and we adapt. That is how I would say.
Fantastic. So this ends our panel, right? I'll request each of our panelists probably for 30 seconds to give a closing note, and then we'll have one or two questions if time is there from the audience. It'll be fantastic. It's important to give back 15 minutes back to the audience for the lunch. Yeah.
It's difficult. This note is between the lunch. So, but I thank you. Thanks for this opportunity and speaking at this conference and sharing my thoughts over here. And yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, like we as an organization are a high value asset to any adversaries, and we continue to drive security controls upliftment. And it's a journey, and the maturity, and it's not only for us, but for any CISO over here in the room. I think it's the same applies to them as well, that security is always a journey. And we will continue to drive maturity, considering the evolving threat landscape and the adoption of various technologies. We are talking about AIs, maybe we missed APIs, it's old, cloud we have touched upon. But tomorrow, quantum, somebody was talking to me in the morning. But yeah, there are so many things which are going around. That is something completely outside our control. And what is in our control, we have to continue to drive that. Thank you.
I would like to thank for providing this opportunity to come here and maybe discuss and learn in this process. And some key aspects that I would look at in terms of this journey would be that we need to enable our people, equip them in a manner where they are able to deal with such adversarial situations. And like I said earlier, we need to use AI to beat AI. And that is how we need to learn and adapt and become resilient as we progress. Thank you.
Fantastic, your thoughts.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thanks for National Cybersecurity Research Council for hosting this event and inviting us for this. And yeah, as far as the security is concerned, it is not only securing the system, it is also the individual to have an hygiene, to have their system protected, and also have proper systems and rules to be followed so that their system and the organization is protected. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think my closing note would be, first of all, thanks to the organizers for setting this up. It's a very difficult task on a city like Mumbai to get people. I think kudos to the entire team out here. That's one. I think my note would be very clear is that get the basic foundation right, right? You might have AI, you have the most fancy technologies, but what is the key is that are you doing your foundation security processes on ground, number one. And especially if you're from the BFSI side, what the regulators basically expect is that are you doing the foundation rights? Everything else matters only 10%, AI, anything, right? What really matters is that do you have the right intent and do you have the right processes for managing the crisis, if at all it comes in your workplace. That is the key, what really matters for me. That's it from my side, I think.
Wow, so that was an amazing, amazing share and valuable industry perspectives. 4 words that I feel I could take from this amazing discussion is access, awareness, process, and adaptability. So thank you so much for this lovely, lovely discussion, amazingly moderated, Apoorba. And thank you so much, Animesh Pathak, Chetan Mahapatra, and Mayurapriyan D. Thank you so much for enlightening us. And audience,